For this homily, I would like to try something a little bit different. Earlier this week, I was at book club with a bunch of my neighbors who are mostly part of the parent-teacher club at our school. The book we read was about choices we make, and our host happens to be a trained yoga instructor. She guided us through a meditation-type exercise that I want to tweak a little bit and try today. We're actually going to try this guided meditation twice. The first time will be more about feeling how you are feeling in your body and being in tune with your body. So let's all take a moment to quiet ourselves. Go ahead and close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. Deep breath in, deep breath out, in, out. Now, while you keep breathing, think about the person or people you love most in this world. This may be a child, a spouse, a parent, a friend, a grandchild, niece, or a nephew. Think about that person. Now notice what you feel in your body as you think about this person. Another deep breath in, another deep breath out. Now, let's think about God. Another deep breath in, another breath out. Notice what you feel in your body as you think on God. Go ahead and open your eyes. Now for a little story time. There once was a legal expert, not me, who, like most legal experts, loved a good checklist. I do love a good checklist. I think Jeff probably would agree with me on this one. Especially when it comes to the law. Checklists are great. This legal expert had an opportunity to ask Jesus a question. So, of course, he asked what he needed to do to gain eternal life. Instead of answering this question, Jesus turns the question back on the lawyer. What do you think you need, based on your own interpretation? The lawyer responds, perhaps quickly, perhaps taking his time. Love God with all your heart, being, strength, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus answers, correct. Do this and live. The lawyer, of course, has some follow-up. Jesus, what does it mean to love God with my whole heart, being, mind, and strength? Oh, wait, Jesus didn't get that question from the lawyer. He didn't ask that. It's actually what I wish he had asked as follow-up. Think back on how this homily started. I asked you to quiet your heart, think of someone you loved, and notice how it felt in your body. I then asked you to do the same exercise with God in mind. What did you notice? For me, when I think of my son, James, I get a physical sensation, like I might burst with how much I love him. He also gets on my nerves sometimes, but mostly I feel like I'm going to burst with love. I don't get that same physical sensation when I think about God. I find it interesting that the lawyer didn't ask any follow-up on how to love God. In my work, I read a lot of legal analysis. When I'm reading, I look for a couple of things to help me interpret the law correctly. First, I look at the general rule statement. Then I look to see how courts have interpreted the general rule statement. So here, I see the general rule statement. Love God with all your heart, being, strength, and mind. Then I look for some explanation of what that looks like in context. Here, there's none provided. At this point, if this were a case I was working on, I would be incredibly frustrated. I would probably make a mental note of who the lawyer was that wrote this brief. There's no analysis. I take this to mean that the lawyer here felt confident that he met the first prong of this two-part test of love God with your whole heart, mind, strength, and being, and love your neighbor as yourself. Honestly, I'm a bit baffled at the lawyer's failure to ask for follow-up on the first part. I'm especially baffled because his follow-up question suggests to me that maybe he shouldn't feel so confident about whether or not he's met the first prong. Before we discuss the second prong, though, I promised you we would try a meditative type exercise twice today. Now this is the second one. This time will be more about different choices we can make. If you ever enjoyed the Choose Your Own Adventure books as a kid, this is a bit more like that. So go ahead and close your eyes again. And take a few deep breaths. In, out, in, out. Imagine you are walking on a path. Is the path sunny? Is there shade? Is it daytime or is it night? Keep walking along that path. You approach a tree. What do you do with the tree? Do you interact with it? Do you just observe it? Do you climb it? Take a few moments to think about what you would do upon finding that tree. Now let's keep walking down this path. Now you come to a trash can, but you see some trash is crumpled up next to the trash can. What do you do? Do you pick it up and throw it away? Or do you leave it there? Maybe it's somebody else's job to pick that trash up. Take another deep breath in, breath out. You keep walking along the path. You now see a child alone on the path. The child is crying. What do? Do you comfort the child? Do you look for the child's parents? Take another breath in, out. You keep moving along the path. You see someone who frustrates or annoys you. They are injured and incapable of helping themselves. What do? Do you help? Do you walk around the person hoping someone else will come along? Take another deep breath in, out. You keep walking on your journey. You see an unhoused person. What do? Do you invite them to your home? Do you give them food or money? Do you just walk away? You keep walking on your journey. This time you see a stranger, perhaps wearing a t-shirt with a message you find offensive on it. They're crying because they lost a loved one to a natural disaster. What do? Do you comfort them? Do you silently judge them? Another deep breath in. Another deep breath out. Go ahead and open your eyes. Perhaps parts of that were challenging. Maybe some of those decisions were easier to make than others. Now let's turn back to the interaction between the lawyer and Jesus. The lawyer does have the follow-up question about loving his neighbor. He wants to know, who is his neighbor? Now, there is some reason to think that the definition of a neighbor was actually a popular topic of debate at this time. Leviticus 19:18 concludes with a mandate to love your neighbor as yourself. And this is probably where this debate started and grew. I don't want to join this debate today. I think we can safely say that here, Jesus' story about a Samaritan being the heroic neighbor is meant to help us draw the circle wide. So wide that all of creation is our neighbor. Now, when I was talking to James about this homily, he wanted to know what a Samaritan was. And I tried to find an easy explanation for him. Of course, there are lots of things that could have been going through the lawyer's mind and could have been going through the minds of anyone else in the audience as Jesus was telling this story. I told James that Samaritans were people who were kind of related to the Jews, but they had some different ideas about how to worship and how to follow God. Essentially, they had some differing theology. The folks who live next door to me and operate an auto body shop out of their garage, those might be some Samaritans. Those are also my neighbors. The people I easily love, those are my neighbors. Strangers, those are also my neighbors. People who follow a different theology, those are my neighbors too. The important part isn't getting the definition of neighbor right, though. If you think about it, Jesus' story is kind of a confusing response to the question, because the neighbor is the one acting in the story, not the one receiving the care. So the lawyer says, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus tells a story about a neighbor behaving well, not vice versa. Maybe Jesus' goal was to say, don't get so hung up on the question of who. Let's think about what it means to love someone, anyone really, as much as you love yourself. Maybe you're not great at loving yourself. But even if that's the case, we all typically have certain degrees of hopes of how others treat us. Jesus is saying, however you hope to be treated, treat everyone else the same. This is true if it's inconvenient. The Samaritan interrupted his journey, after all, to care for this injured man. He used his funds. He took his time. We don't know how much this may have delayed him, but we know that it was worth it to him. Treating others the way that you would want to be treated is true if the person is someone like you. It's true if it's someone you can't stand. It's true if it's someone you agree with. It's true if it's someone you disagree with, or someone you don't even know. Earlier this week, devastation occurred in Texas. So much is still unknown about those floods, but what is known is that many families have been utterly devastated. Now, some were quick to judge and claim that Texas earned this result with how people have voted there. Now, Jesus may not have agreed necessarily with the policies and decisions that were made in Texas, but this text tells us the correct response to the families that are hurting now. It's not to judge. It's not to point fingers and lay blame. It's love. It's compassion. We're told in the text that the Samaritan felt compassion. He didn't just act, he also felt. So our correct response is love, compassion. It's care despite boundaries, despite differing ideologies, and despite inconvenience. May we learn to be like the Samaritan and be neighbors like the Samaritan, who was moved with compassion and who had mercy.